One of the most fascinating things about our world is its endless capacity for incredible discoveries. With millions of years of history beneath our feet, we're constantly learning new things about our planet. Scientists have long suggested that giants once roamed the Earth. While opposing theories exist, a recent discovery has further solidified these claims. In 2003, news emerged of an incredible discovery in Iraq that shocked everyone. It was reported that German explorers and archaeologists, led by Jörg Fassbinder, had unearthed an ancient tomb belonging to giants who lived hundreds or even thousands of years ago. As you might imagine, researchers didn't stop there and meticulously examined every detail of the tomb. It was reported that the remains belonged to giants and were sent to laboratories for testing. However, since this discovery, little has been said about it, and the matter seems to have been kept secret. Thus, the tomb became the subject of some debate. Whose tomb was it exactly? And had other similar tombs been found? One prominent theory about this archaeological find is that the tomb belongs to the legendary king Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is the protagonist of the Epic of Gilgamesh, the oldest literary work written in human history. In the story, Gilgamesh is depicted as a giant, 5 meters tall. He is known to be the son of a Sumerian king and a Mesopotamian goddess, and ruled the lands of Uruk, located within the borders of modern-day Iraq. So, he could have been buried in his homeland, and his remains could have been found in 2003, right? A demigod, Gilgamesh was a king who could be cruel, not only to his enemies but also to his people. This isn't surprising, considering he was believed to possess divine power and could do almost anything he wanted. According to the epic, the gods finally heard the cries for help from Gilgamesh's people and took action. Anu, the king of the gods, used clay and his own saliva to create Enkidu, a wild man who would challenge Gilgamesh's power. Gilgamesh and Enkidu came to blows. Both characters possessed divine power. Rumor has it that their duel lasted for days, and Gilgamesh emerged victorious. Despite his victory, Gilgamesh was impressed by Enkidu, and they eventually became friends. When Enkidu finally succumbed to death, Gilgamesh was so grief-stricken that he became a philosopher. The death of his friend caused him to question the meaning of life and the value of all human achievements. Enkidu's death also contributed to Gilgamesh becoming a better person. Putting aside all his pride, he embarked on an epic quest to find the meaning of life and even conquer death. He was just going to conquer death. How hard could it be? Returning to Gilgamesh's tomb, we're not entirely sure how the legendary king of Uruk died. The main point here is that for many years everyone believed the Epic of Gilgamesh was nothing more than a literary work, and that the ancient king probably never existed. However, everything changed when Fassbinder and his team made this discovery. According to the team, the tomb they discovered did indeed seem to belong to the king of Uruk. Fassbinder added that this discovery was made possible thanks to modern technology. Furthermore, the team uncovered not only the tomb site, but also over 100,000 hectares of land and property, many of which were described in the Epic of Gilgamesh. Fassbinder also claimed they found scattered Babylonian houses and properties buried for thousands of years in the region. So, what happened to the human remains found there? Interestingly, this is where the story falls silent. Fassbinder and his team said they had indeed found Gilgamesh and obtained definitive proof that the entire epic was true. It was announced that excavation work was halted due to the Iraq War that broke out immediately after the discovery. According to some sources, the war in Iraq began about a month after Fassbinder and his team discovered the tomb, so they didn't have enough time to excavate and retrieve what they found. As the conflict in Iraq intensified, most of the artifacts disappeared. Conspiracy theorists who advocate this also claim that the reason the US government started the Iraq War was to clear the entire archaeological site, which leads us to the super soldier theory. The main point of this theory is that the artifacts were actually excavated, but the US government and global powers are hiding them from us. Some believe the government is currently conducting DNA tests on the remains, hoping to revive the giant race that once ruled the Earth, or at least see if they can be hybridized with humans. Corey Good, a YouTuber and researcher, is one of the biggest proponents of this theory. In a removed episode of the program Cosmic Disclosure, Good claimed that there are chambers around the world containing these giant creatures. Whether the government is using them as potential testing grounds or some kind of super soldier project, or simply preserving them as part of human history remains unknown. Gilgamesh or Nimrod? As we mentioned earlier, the discovery of these giants raised many questions and sparked numerous theories about what was happening. While many people thought this could be Gilgamesh's final resting place, there were those who disagreed. Those who opposed the original theory argued that it was impossible for the tomb to belong to Gilgamesh, since his existence had never been proven. Instead, they suggested it belonged to Nimrod, a relatively infamous character in the Bible known for his power and ambition. Nimrod is said to have been a powerful hunter and, according to the Bible, became a king at some point. The book of Genesis states that Nimrod's kingdom encompassed the lands of Babylon, Uruk, and Shinar in Mesopotamia. This suggests that he either founded or ruled these cities in some way. The biblical narrative also links Nimrod to the construction of the Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel was a massive tower whose construction began when humanity wanted to reach the heavens and converse with God and his angels. We almost all know how this story unfolded. God destroyed the tower and divided humanity into nations by bestowing different languages upon all the citizens of Babel. In fact, there is no passage in the Bible stating that Nimrod was the one who had the Tower of Babel built. The discourse on this matter mainly comes from academics and other experts. The ideas of Flavius Josephus, a 1st century Roman scholar, also support these claims. The important point here is that many scientists have put forward unsubstantiated views about who these individuals were and their connection to the tomb found in 2003. For example, some believe that Nimrod was the same person as Gilgamesh. After all, both men were incredibly arrogant and seemed to have some issues with God in their time, and moreover, the deaths of both were uncertain. Just as no one knows exactly how Gilgamesh died, no one knows how Nimrod met his end. Considering the similarities between them and their powerful physiques, it could be argued that Nimrod and Gilgamesh were the same person, or at least that the person who wrote the Epic of Gilgamesh used Nimrod as a kind of inspiration. So, could this be Nimrod's tomb? Although it seems unlikely, there are those who advocate for it. People who believe in this idea argue that Nimrod was real, unlike Gilgamesh, whose existence has never been proven. According to them, the depiction of Uruk in the Epic of Gilgamesh was based on a real place. Therefore, if Nimrod was the ruler of these lands, it was possible that the tomb discovered by German researchers belonged to him. At this point, another question comes to mind. Why didn't the designers of the cemetery put up a sign at the entrance and write who it belonged to? If Fassbinder and his team had reached the tomb and it simply said, "Here lies King Nimrod," or "The worst man to walk the earth, Gilgamesh, is here," we wouldn't need to get into these debates. The discovery of Lovelock Cave and the Sitka connection. You might think that the discovery of Gilgamesh or Nimrod, or whoever was inside that tomb, would be one of a kind, but that's not the case at all. Over the years, there have been many discoveries proving the existence of giants who truly lived among us. One of the most significant giant discoveries in recent history was the Lovelock Cave discovery. In 1911, two miners named David Pugh and James Hart were tasked with finding bat guano in Lovelock Cave, Nevada, USA. This product was an essential component in fertilizer production, so the miners were likely hired by a fertilizer company or a farmer. What seemed like a routine search turned into one of the most important archaeological discoveries in history. As Pugh and Hart descended into the depths of the mine, they discovered over 40 human skeletons, which they presumed were kept there as part of some kind of burial ritual. When the skeletons were excavated, they were found to be incredibly large. Archaeologists announced that the skeletons in the cave had red hair. This meant they were most likely not Native Americans who might have lived there before. Most of the discovered skeletons were lost over time, but those that were preserved were remarkable. Still, the initial discoveries were quite limited. Pugh and Hart only saw the skeletons and presented them to the local authorities at the time. News of the incredible discovery spread over time, and all eyes turned to the region. In the spring of 1912, L.L. Loud, an employee of the University of California Anthropology Museum, was sent to the area to obtain additional findings. Loud found over 100,000 artifacts in the cave, and although he didn't keep an official record of the items he saw, many of them were truly extraordinary. Over the years, many people have questioned which race these giants might have belonged to. Some have claimed that they may have come from the Sitka, a legendary tribe in Paiute history. This isn't too far-fetched, as it has long been known that this tribe was red-haired and of gigantic stature. A famous Paiute author, Sarah Winnemucca Hopkins, claimed that her people were victimized by the Siteka tribe for a long time. She said that the cannibalistic tribe had survived for years by hunting the Paiute, who eventually decided to rise up and fight back. It is known that the war between the Paiute people and the Siteka lasted for about 3 years, and eventually ended with the Siteka's demise. It is said that the last member of the cannibalistic Siteka tribe fled to Lovelock Cave for refuge and died there when the cave was set on fire. Another piece of evidence suggesting that these giant skeletons belonged to the Siteka tribe is that archaeologists and researchers found burn marks at the entrance of Lovelock Cave. For many people, this is undoubtedly an intriguing story. The discovery of Lovelock Cave shows that there was indeed a human race that lived before, or at least at the same time as the Native Americans, and perhaps even occupied their lands. Stonehenge, giants, and aliens. One of the places you might want to visit when you go to England is Stonehenge. While it was used for ceremonial activities in the past, it has now become one of the most popular tourist destinations in the country. But have you ever wondered who built Stonehenge? We know that the site was built at different times, but who built it remains a mystery. On the other hand, it can be said that this matter was clarified a little bit years ago. In 2018, researchers at Harvard University revealed in a report that the people who built Stonehenge disappeared shortly after the complex was completed. Even worse, these ancient Britons left almost no DNA traces in the modern English population. Therefore, their lineage and race almost vanished from the face of the earth. The report was undoubtedly chilling. How can the sudden and almost complete disappearance of an entire race be explained? Although we don't know exactly who the architects of Stonehenge were, considering that each of the stones that make up the prehistoric structure weighs at least 25 tons and is about 4 meters high, we're sure these people must have been gigantic in size. The sudden disappearance of Stonehenge's builders has long been a matter that has puzzled scientists. What happened to them? And why did these people suddenly disappear without a trace? We can consult some clues on this matter. In 1998, researchers at Emory University in Atlanta analyzed DNA data collected from different populations. The purpose of this research was to trace the ancestry of Native Americans. The researchers divided all the DNA samples they had into 4. Each race represented a different migration route traced from the Asian continent between 20,000 and 30,000 years ago. However, experts also found that a small portion of the samples fell outside the groups they classified. They concluded that this portion could be traced back to 36,000 years ago and had a different origin than the other groups. Due to its distinct characteristics, scientists named the new lineage Haplogroup X. This meant that there was a group of people on the planet whose ancestry could not be fully traced. Apparently, it was almost impossible to find any theory about human origins unless we overlooked aliens. Wherever we looked, this community kept popping up. Even more surprising was that scientists claimed to have seen traces of another species in human DNA, a species that has not yet been identified. Anthropologist John Hawks from the University of Wisconsin conducted an analysis of human DNA dating back thousands of years to answer this question. Thanks to genome mapping, Hawks discovered that the rate of DNA change in the last 5,000 years was 100 times greater than in any other 5,000-year period in human history. DNA changes are normal, but what caused human DNA to change so much in the last 5,000 years? Proponents of this theory believed that the human species mated not only with other life forms on the planet, but also with extraterrestrial beings. In conclusion, we can say that we live in a world where many things are incredibly uncertain, and even the most intelligent people haven't been able to fully map out how we came to Earth. From the discovery of the tomb in Iraq to the origins of the human race, there are still many questions to be answered, and so far, we haven't been able to clarify any of them. We're sure there will be even more unanswered questions as the world keeps spinning. What are your thoughts on these topics? Who could the gigantic remains that Fassbinder and his team found in the tomb belong to? Are Gilgamesh and Nimrod the same person? Did the human race really come into contact with aliens? We're curious to hear your ideas. See you in another video where we bring together mystery and interesting information. Goodbye for now.